Independent games are very important because in the indie game world, it's the only place where developers have guts. See, I'm going to be totally straightforward with you about what I think. In the world of AAA gaming, that is, in the world of PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, all those giant companies, there's no room for error. There's no room to take too many risks. They have to release games that people are definitely going to like. Games that definitely cater to the majority of the world's video game consumption. In other words, they play it safe. Why? Because they invest $100, $200, $300 million in each game. In the world of independent gaming, in the indie scene, something completely different happens. Here, if you don't have the guts to create something somewhat different, something interesting, or something controversial, why not? You die in obscurity. Because there's no way to compete against the giants like PlayStation or Nintendo, Xbox, Electronic Arts, etc. So indie developers are the only ones who are taking more risks these days. To be controversial, to give a twist to what was already written, to invent new genres, or to present different graphic sections. Often cheap, but yes, different. Well, in today's video, we are going to talk about the many independent video games. And the characteristic that brings them all together is that all these games that I'm going to talk about next are releases from 2025, and they are all very particular games. And they all have something different to contribute to gaming, and I hope you get excited about independent games, and I hope you get excited about discovering new titles, because this list is full of new and very interesting games. If you enjoy this content, please like and share to support the channel. Now let's get started. And we start today's video with one of the most spectacular and interesting video games I have on my Steam wishlist for 2025. This is Replaced, a platform, action, adventure game in 2.5 dimensions that combines volumetric lighting techniques with pixel art. The title tells us the story of Rich, an artificial intelligence that suddenly finds itself trapped in the body of a human being and must find a way to survive and integrate into this world that it does not understand. Beyond having a very interesting plot and presenting very powerful action, the game stands out for what it looks like, for the graphics section. It's beautiful, at times 2 dimensions, at times 3 dimensions, in what we commonly call 2.5D. It's a day one release on Game Pass, and it's a release for the Xbox PC ecosystem. But who knows, maybe later it will also be announced for Nintendo and PlayStation. Like almost all the games on this list, I don't have a confirmed date for the title, let alone. The next game on this list was only announced on PC, but maybe later they will also announce it for consoles because it is totally possible. This is The Alters, and it also brings a very powerful proposal and
quite different.
In this game, you are the last survivor of an expedition on another planet. An expedition that went wrong because all your companions died. You are the last one left. And on top of all this, you just found out that the planet you are on is going to be destroyed very soon by a cataclysm, and you have to get out of here. What happens is that your ship, which is a kind of giant wheel with a city floating in the middle, is not going to work if you are just one person, because one person is not enough to operate all this machinery. You go out to explore, collect resources, farm a lot, build modules for your ship, and manage to clone yourself. Why? Since you possess the cloning technology, you began duplicating yourself, creating numerous clones, each slightly different. Similar, but a little different from what the original person would be. And you're going to have to make all these people take care of the different tasks involved in getting the ship moving to escape from this planet. I was able to play this title very recently because it had a stage of closed-door betas that I was able to enjoy. And I must say that the gameplay experience is very satisfying. In addition to all this science fiction stuff, to the genre of survival and crafting fits it very well. Obviously, we don't have a confirmed date for this game, as I was telling you, nor for any of all those on this list, so I'm going to stop saying this. that we don't have a date, and I'm already going to take it for granted for all the games of this title. Not only do I not have a date, but I also don't have gameplay to show you. But it's on my most anticipated list for 2025 of the Underworld, because the first game was spectacular. And I have no doubt that this second one is going to be great. This is Slidespire 2. This title is a card game, a deck builder roguelike. That is, a game in which you start with a basic deck of cards, and as you progress in the game, you add cards randomly. And what you do is try to get as far as possible in the game, or finish it in one go. Well, what you're seeing on screen is Slidespire 1A real game and one of the best in its genre. And next year the 2 comes out. If you like cards, you like this game. This title won me over from the first moment I knew about its proposal for how different and interesting it is, beyond the graphics section that I also quite like. The question in Blueprints is the following. You've just inherited a gigantic mega mansion and you're about to investigate it. You're very interested in one room in particular, which is room number 46. So you start investigating this place to find this room. It's the number 46. The thing is, every time you move through this mansion, the mansion changes. Every time you open a new door, you decide where you want that door to take you, making each time you enter the mansion a completely different journey than the last. What's inside each of these rooms? Well, mysteries, puzzles, riddles, a bit of suspense, a bit of history, a bit of everything. That is like a kind of roguelike, but instead of being about brawls or little cards, it's about puzzles and riddles. For now, it's only announced for PC, but who knows, it might also come out on consoles. You've seen how it is in the world of indie games. They always announce first on Steam. And then if they do more or less well, they can make it to consoles. I played the first one and suffered a lot because it was one of the most challenging games I had to play on console. But beyond the suffering, beyond what it cost me to get through Tales of Iron 1, I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm sure that with Tales of Iron 2, it's going to happen to me too. Tales of Iron is a two-dimensional Souls-like, to put it simply. That is, an epic adventure, difficult to tackle, with a lot of emphasis on blocking, parrying, dodging and all that, but from the side. In this new adventure, in Tales of Iron 2, you're going to travel to the lands of the north to hunt down a series of legendary monsters and end their threat and save the kingdom of the rats. That's what the game is about, or at least that's what the first game was about, where we saved the fantasy kingdom of rats from an invasion of frogs and toads. Tales of Iron is a mix of fantasy, forest animals, Game of Thrones, and Souls-likes. And yes, we have confirmed that it will be released on consoles and also on PC. Obviously, I don't know the date, for God's sake. This looks crazy. When I saw the trailer that you're watching right now on screen, I got very excited. Because I love titles that look weird, that look sinister, that look colorful, but at the same time, murky. And that's how Morsels looks, which is what you're watching right now. In this game, you're a little mouse who, thanks to a somewhat strange magical power, manages to turn into a creature called Morsel. A kind of living garbage that is going to try to make its way through the city's sewers. Fighting against more living garbage, more mutant garbage, horrible creatures, insects, and other unpleasant things. All this with a crazy graphics section and a very varied mix of genres. Initially, in essence, the game is a roguelike, but it also plays with other subgenres such as action, adventure, shooter, a bit of puzzle, and so on. It's the debut title from a small Canadian studio called Focula, and this one does have what could be called a release date, February 2025 on consoles and PC. The Pipistrello family, as if it were Italian. It's one of the most important and influential families in this city. The thing is that one fine day, the Pipistrellos, the remaining criminal gangs in the city, set an ambush, leaving us as one of the last living Pipistrellos. We are Pipit Pipistrello, a rabbit with a yo-yo, ready to fight against the other mafias. The story description and on-screen visuals are completely unrelated, showcasing the game's absolute madness. It's a Metroidvania-style game, according to the developers, with a crazy pixel art style in 16 or 32-bit. You can see it for yourself, so there's no need for me to explain what's on the screen. The developers assure it's difficult to master. I loved it. It seems different and fresh. Do you remember Micro Machines? Or at least some game of the Micro Machines. Well, Tiny Tires is that. A kind of tribute to the Micro Machines. I don't think this game is going to be a big sales sensation, much less that we will hear about this game again, but as I have a lot of affection for the Micro Machines. And they announced this game that is about that. Well, guess what? I put it in the video. There are many video games that you are going to see in this video that I'm going to mention today and never again, because that's how this works. There are titles that will reappear in some other big data news video and others that won't. Probably. This is one of those. My recommendation is that you watch this video and on another screen or on your phone or whatever, you also have the Steam page open. And if any of these games interest you, then add it to your wish list so you don't miss it. Because you know how our minds and our memories work with so many new games coming out all the time. End of clarification, we continue. The developers at Screenbound jokingly comment that this title is the first 5D video game in history. Why? It's a 2D and 3D game at the same time. And well, 2D plus 3D equals 5D. It's a pretty bad joke. And it's a pretty bad joke. But somehow, it's somewhat true. And that's because Screenbound is a 3D platform game. At the same time, it's also a 2D platform game. Because this game is played through a retro Game Boy style console that we have in our hands where a 2D game is running. That is, we interact with the world around us in 3 dimensions through a 2-dimensional game. If you die on the console screen, you die in the 3D world. And if you die in the 3D world, you lose. That is, you have to find a way to advance in both games at the same time. The goal of Screenbound is simple. Reach the end of the platform level by getting 3 objects that are like a kind of shiny cube, which allows us to open the door to the next level. A simple premise that is to traverse the level from A to B without falling, but with a quite interesting gameplay context. I have no idea about the plot and I don't think it matters too much. If I'm not mistaken, this game is going to fall into Game Pass. But well, I'll tell you more later. I love hard to see games like these because they are games that you don't finish or understand what they are about or what they intend, and they generate so much intrigue that I can't help but mention them at least in one of these videos. And that's the case with Centum. And to talk about this game, I'm going to read directly the description that its developers put on Steam, because it seems to me the simplest way to approach this title. There is no singular protagonist in Centum. Instead, players shape the behavior of an artificial intelligence through their choices, guiding it towards different outcomes and experiences. A game in which actions and dialogues determine the course of a story with multiple endings. That's Centum according to its developers. I must say, it seems that we are facing one of those games that doesn't explain absolutely anything to you, and everything you do has a consequence, but you don't fully understand why. Personally, I find the proposal fascinating. I know it's not easy to see, and I know many won't like it, but here it is for you to discover if, like me, you're a fan of the odd things. This is Tenjutsu, a kind of Dead Cells but in third person with a lot of kung fu and a touch of Hotline Miami. In this game, you're in a fictional city where crime reigns and 4 criminal clans face off to turn this place into total chaos. And we are the heroine who is going to distribute martial democracy in this city. Like Dead Cells, Tenjutsu is a roguelike that is one of those games where you go through different levels to see how far you can get. And when you get killed, you start over. Only instead of going through dungeons or fantastic places, you go through the suburbs of a city teeming with criminals. The title is published by Devolver. It's not actually an indie, but we're bending the rules a bit to make the game list a bit more interesting. There are several games on this list that are not technically an indie. But well, I have nothing to say about it. I cheated, I lied, I'm a liar. This title is going to be very hard to explain because I have no idea what it's about. I just have faith. I have faith in Pony Island 2, and I have faith because this title was developed by Daniel Mullins with his studio, Daniel Mullins Games, the ones responsible for developing Inscription. If you played Inscription, I don't have to convince you to play Pony Island 2. You know what this game studio is capable of. Now, if you don't know what Inscription is about, or you don't know Daniel Mullins, well, now I tell you and try to convince you, this guy's crazy. He founded a studio to do this kind of stuff. This guy's missing a screw, and like all people who are missing a screw, he's creative and innovative. His style is characterized by completely breaking away from traditional narrative and playing with the concepts of reality and fiction within a game itself. In addition to introducing magical elements, science fiction, and things with certain terrifying touches. In the previous installment of Pony Island, our protagonist delved into a kind of software or programming of an old recreational machine called Pony Island, and we had to explore this machine and solve the game's programming in order to get out of there. I have no idea what this second installment is about because all we have is this trailer that we are watching. All I want to know is who develops the game to have all the information. The faith in the world that I'm going to like this. Whatever it ends up being, its developers say that this title is going to be very hard to play because they designed the physics of our character to make our lives difficult. And our character is an egg. An egg that if it falls, it crashes, it breaks, and we lose. And our goal is to get this egg to the top of different buildings and overcome different types of obstacles being just an egg. What's the fun of the little egg? Well, it's simple, it's not spherical, it's not round, it's not predictable. And according to the developers of the title, depending on the part of the egg's rotation we are in, our jumps will be in different ways and with different intensities. So we will have to learn to regulate the rotation of the egg to calculate the jumps. If at this point in the video you are with me right now, listening to me talk about eggs, calculating rotation, physics, and weird games, well, obviously, we have something in common. Why? Because I know that not everyone is interested in these things. If you're watching up to this point, I'm going to ask you please to give a like to the video. Because these videos, which I love to make, are not the most viewed on the channel. And because of that, many times I choose not to make them to prioritize other types of content. So if you like this content and you're enjoying it, please like it, comment on it, share it. So the video doesn't die forgotten among the more than 1,000 videos I have here on the channel. Because I love that we discover new games. Thank you. I lack a lot of information about this title. And I still don't know whether to trust this game or not. Because a part of what they showed I like a lot, but at the same time the title description doesn't let me see if it's a survival horror or if it's rather a narrative game and nothing more. For now I put it on the list. For now I comment on it for how it looks and what it tells. This is Subversive Memories, or however it's pronounced, a title set in Brazil in the 1970s within the framework of a military process that the country underwent in which it seems that very serious things happened. Let's see, I'm quite interested in how it looks, I'm interested in the historical context of the game and so on, but there's still a bit of information missing about the title. And since we're talking about terrifying indies that look quite interesting, let's talk about Holstein. Why not? End of 1992, a small and isolated town in eastern Poland suffers a terrible calamity that gradually begins to consume everyone and transforms it. That is, like some kind of plague or something like that, or a pestilence, it's not well known. The point is that this town is the last known whereabouts of a friend of ours. A friend who the last thing he told us was that he was here, that he needed help, and then we didn't hear from him anymore. We, as good buddies, came to this town to see what happened to our friend, and we found out about everything that's happening here. Holstein stands out for many things. First, for its history. Secondly, for its graphics that sometimes seem 2D, sometimes 3D, which at times are very detailed, at times not. Sometimes dark, sometimes illuminated. That is, it's a total madness. And thirdly, it stands out for its constant change of genres. It has shooting, it has puzzle solving, it has role-playing game mechanics driving. It has a bunch of things coexisting within a Polish horror game. Something that can go totally well or absolutely disastrous. I'm betting on the former because I'm very excited about this title. It should have come out this year, but it didn't. And finally, I leave with another title that should have come out this year, but it didn't. It didn't come out because it was delayed, or at least at the time I'm making this video. We're talking about the first few days of December. At the time of making this video, the present still hasn't come out, and it's supposedly coming out in 2025. I also got to try this game, and I assure you it's great. It says it looks super fun. In this title, you are a police officer newly arrived at a precinct in one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. A fictional city, but in a quite realistic context in the 1980s. As a new precinct officer, we're going to have to do some field police work, hit the streets, issue some fines, arrest some criminals, participate in some shootouts, chase down a suspect or two, and do a lot of paperwork. As we progress in our quality as a police officer, and as we climb the ranks in the precinct, you drive cars, you fly helicopters, you shoot. You have some very interesting mechanics to subdue suspects and so on. You participate in interrogations, you read criminals their rights, and you do a lot of things that police should do in real life. And I played the demo, I played a beta of this title, and I tried to be corrupt because I said it would be very interesting if it could be done, and I couldn't. At least at the moment when I smacked a suspect in the face before reading him his rights. I got scolded. At least I got scolded. They told me that wasn't done. I also tried to smack a handcuffed suspect in the face. It went wrong. It would have been good if it could have been. It's very good, it's very fun, and there are very fresh ideas in this game. Like the helicopter chase mechanics, for example. In general, there are very fresh ideas in all the games on this list. You know how this is, don't you?
Indie is the sector of gaming that dares to go a little bit further.
And in fact, it has to go a little bit further. Because if not, they don't stand out. So here we have the freshest ideas. I hope these games that all bring something fresh, something different, or something particular have pleased you, or at least there is one that has caught your attention and that you added to your wish list. So in 2025, we also talk and play different things beyond the AAA of Microsoft, Nintendo, PlayStation, which always come out. Friends, thank you for watching. I hope you have an excellent end of the year and a huge start to 2025. Once again, thank you for being with us this year and choosing us for information and fun. See you next time.